Afropolitan is a startup aiming to create the first ever digital nation, raising more than $2 million back in June. And joining me now in the CDTV studio is co-founder of Afropolitan, Chika Uwazie. Welcome, Chika, to CoinDesk.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So first of all, this is an interesting concept. I mean, walk us through what is a digital nation and why do we need this digital nation in the first place?
Yes. So I think the term that everyone's using right now is called a network state, right? But to be honest, like, it's a new term. So the average person, if you say, I'm building a network state, they'll be like, what are you talking about? So digital nation is like an easier way to really drive what we're doing. But essentially, we are looking to start a country, right? Building it digitally first and then land last. And it's a very long-term project, but that's essentially what we're looking to do. So we want to be actually recognized diplomatically.
Oh, how does that work? You build it digitally first. So in a metaverse of some sort. Tell me what that metaverse looks like and where it's being built, and then the land afterwards?
Yes. So actually this concept came from Balaji, right?
So it was one of your investors.
Exactly. So back in April, we read his article, How to Start a New Country. And at the time, we're like, okay, that's a cool concept, but it didn't really click, like, how we could do that. And then I think through the emergence of DAOs, right, we realized, okay, there's actually like a process or a blueprint of how we can start. So literally when we say digital first, what it typically means is to actually build a community, right? So actually build a community. There's different ways that you can actually tokenize a community, whether it's actually just launching the DAO and having a treasury. It could be through an NFT project, but some way how you're actually connecting the community, right? And it's on chain. And then actually through a DAO, you can actually create a treasury, right? And then you actually have like an economical powerhouse. So similar to a sovereign wealth fund, right? In Singapore and most countries have some type of sovereign wealth fund. And then eventually, right after we have the country, we want to do a minimal viable state, right? And so that means we're actually a minimal viable state. So instead of a minimal viable product, minimal viable state. And essentially what's happening is that we're actually acting as state actors, right? So a great example would be in the Ukraine crisis. So a lot of people don't realize that a lot of Africans were stuck in Ukraine. So a lot of students that were there schooling, and basically a lot of African countries did not have the bandwidth to actually enter the country and bring some of these students out. So what we are saying is, if we actually have a community, we have a treasury, we have working groups, could we actually step in and help, right, on behalf of some of these African countries? But then lastly, we're looking to actually have land, but we don't want to do it in the typical way where you have actual like bordered off place. We actually want to have like Afro towns all over the world, right? So similar to Chinatowns, where in every major city there's a Chinatown, we're looking to do the same thing, right? And you can actually have that all like recognized digitally, right? And you're able to actually have that all in one place.
And what's the state of the development so far? Have you already created the community? Is that something that's going to be built? And are you building like a metaverse for people to take part in?
Yeah, so it's not about the metaverse. That's not what we're trying to do, right? When we say digitally, we just mean like this community is online, right? So what we're actually doing right now is we actually have a community. So we built a community on Clubhouse, we have a community on Twitter, and obviously we have a community on our Telegram, right? And so what we're actually looking to do first is to launch our NFT projects, because what we want to do is actually create a mythology, right? And so this African mythology is very key in kind of building this deep consciousness of what we're trying to do. If you're building a digital country, it's not just a transactional thing, and you can't just say, just join this membership. It has to be like a deeper meaning. So for us, we're actually spending time creating a mythology. We are working with a team of African writers that really understand our story. And because what we want to really share in our message is that, number one, Africa was once abundant, right? And number two, that you can't know where you're going if you don't know where you're coming from, right? So our mythology is going to drop in November. And then we're going to actually start with building out the community in that way. And so the community will be living on a Discord, right? But then eventually we do want to build out our own platform, which is the Super app, where basically everything that's happening within Afropolitan is living on that super app. And then eventually, as we grow with time, we'll do the actual physical piece.
How many people are in the community so far? And when you say land, I mean, African towns. Would you
yeah,
say
yeah,
are signed in or, you know, in the works?
Yeah. So I would say there's about 50,000 people in the community, right? And then we also do in real life events. And so most of our in real life events, anywhere between 400 to 1,000 people end up showing up at some of these events. And these are community events. We do them all over the world, right? And it's a way to really tap into the African diaspora because that's our market. When we say physical lands, what we're saying is that we already have some land that's been donated by one of our actual members, right, in Zambia. And then we also have conversations we've been having with different countries. So we're not really clear yet where we want to be. I mean, this is like at least a 15-year project, right? But it's definitely something that we aspire to do.
Okay, so let's talk about crypto usage in Africa. So Nigeria is working to create the first economic free zone for cryptocurrency in West Africa. And the Nigeria Export Processing Zones Authority is in talks with Binance and Town City to partner on the project. So what would that mean for Nigerians, and does this help Afropolitan's goal?
Oh, yes. So number one, it definitely helps our goal. Because think about it. If we have a place where there's an actual like free trade zone, number one, we could actually physically have a space there. But number two, we can tap into the diaspora market. I mean, the diaspora, at least the Nigerian diaspora community, is one of the most educated in the US, right? Can you imagine actually having that manpower? They don't have to physically be in Nigeria, but they can actually somewhat maybe through their funds because they send so much money back home, or whether it's through their brain power because they're building these amazing companies that they can actually tap into the economic activity in Nigeria. So I think that's really important. But I would say the other thing is that I know Talent City is also partnering with them, right? And Talent City, they're actually building a physical location where people can be living, where they're working, where they're creating, you know, businesses as well, and they don't have to deal with some of the really harsh taxes in Nigeria, right? So I think there's a lot of benefit, and also what it's showing is that Nigeria is being open to crypto, right, and open to some of creating real regulation, because what's happening is there's so much crypto activity happening in Nigeria. But then there's a lot of confusion from outsiders, like, well, is it banned? Is it not banned?
Yes,
you know, it's not really clear.
Like with the central banks in Nigeria, I mean, they want to ban transactions or so how does that all come together, and you know, how do you navigate that?
Yeah. So what I will say is I've been speaking to a lot of people that have created I would say like a working group to talk to CBN. I don't think they necessarily want to shut it down. I think it's more of them trying to understand it, right? And trying to make sure that there's no bad actors trying to use, you know, the funding as well. So I think it's more of them trying to understand it because actually when you land in Lagos, like one of the biggest billboards is a crypto company. So, I mean, people are using it. Obviously, like in April, I think there was a lot of reports from Google Trends saying like Nigeria is the most crypto obsessed, you know, globally, right? So there's a lot of people actually using this type of method, right? But I think it's just them trying to understand it more. Okay,
and so people are also using cryptocurrencies, especially Bitcoin in Nigeria, to battle hyperinflation, especially with Nigeria's currency, the Naira. So how is crypto impacting younger generations in the country and in Africa in general?
Yeah, so let me say this, right? When I moved back to Nigeria in 2015, Naira was 180, right? Today, it's 700.
Oh, wow.
And that's from 2015 to 2021. It's not a long period of time. So if you can imagine if I invested in, let's say, land in Nigeria, if I just saved my money, I basically would have been losing money. Versus a lot of people who started trying to actually tap into cryptocurrency and they're now saving in Bitcoin, saving in Ethereum, right? They're using the yield saving different or DeFi products that are out there, right? And they're actually, it's a way for them to fight against inflation. So that's why I always try to tell people, I really think Web3 was made for Africa because we actually have like real use cases that we actually need to use the cryptocurrency.
All right. You'll also be speaking at SALT about building community and broadening access to Web3.
Yes.
So folks can also join in and watch you there. You also mentioned you had an investor
Balaji.
Yes. Was last name.
Sir Ferdinand.
And so how is he involved, and what is his contribution to Afropolitan?
Yeah, so when my partner woke me up at 5 a.m. with this idea, because that's how it even started, he was actually one of the first people that we spoke to. So I know that Balaji was following my co-founder Eche on Twitter, and so my co-founder just like DM'd him, was like, I have this idea. I know you wrote about like starting a network state, and I just want to see, am I crazy for this idea? What do you think? And he was like, okay. He's like, I'm interested, you know, tell me more, right? And then literally over a month, we're just kind of going back and forth, kind of like fleshing out the idea with him, and then he finally invested. But to be honest, he's been quite helpful because number one, dropping his book alone has really put a lot of people just understanding what this means, because when we first started fundraising, we really had to explain it to them, and people were like, I don't get it, what it means, and they really only had like one article and like some few YouTubes to reference. And at least now with the book, a lot more people are talking about it, including Vitalik. He also mentioned us in his latest essay when he reviewed the network state. So it actually just broadened the conversation. And then also Balaji on the networkstate.com, he has a dashboard, right? Really like documenting every single startup that's actually starting this network state. So you see Afropolitan right on the top, and then when he has different podcasts, he constantly talks about Nigeria and the diaspora and the power of it as well. So I think just him sharing his awareness of what this is, and also just giving more context to how this actually can come as a reality has really helped us as well.
Yeah, it sounds very refreshing, very innovative. And incredible to have you on. You also have the second largest clubhouse, I understand, which is the name of it.
Yes, so it's actually called the Divine Feminine, right?
Okay, the Divine Feminine. So folks, you can check out Chika there as well.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Right,
that was such lovely.
Lovely to have you. That's Chika Uwazie. She's the co-founder of Afropolitan.